Hello everybody, and thank you for this wonderful introduction. I can help us in many ways to overcome the ecological crisis, or it can make it far, far worse. Actually, AI will probably change the very meaning of the ecological system. Now, people have feared AI since the very beginning of the computer age, in the middle of the 20th century. And this fear has inspired many science fiction classics like The Terminator or The Matrix. While such science fiction scenarios have become cultural landmarks, they haven't usually been taken seriously in academic and scientific and political debates, and perhaps for a good reason. As for navigating the physical world, despite the hype around self-driving vehicles, the date at which these vehicles will dominate our roads keeps being postponed. However, the bad news is that to threaten the survival of human civilization, AI doesn't really need consciousness, and it doesn't need the ability to move around the physical world. Over the last few years, new AI tools have been unleashed into the public sphere, which may threaten the survival of human civilization from a very unexpected direction. And it's difficult for us to even grasp the capabilities of these new AI tools and the speed at which they continue to develop. The ability to manipulate and to generate language, whether with words or images or sounds. The most important aspect of the current phase of the ongoing AI revolution is that AI is gaining mastery of language at a level that surpasses the average human ability. The operating system of every human culture in history has always been language. We use language to create mythology and laws, to create gods and money, to create art and science, to create friendships and nations. Human rights is something that we created with language by telling stories and writing laws. Gods are also not a biological or physical reality. It's just electronic information in computers. What gives money of any kind value is only the stories that people like bankers, finance ministers, and cryptocurrency gurus tell us about money. Now, what would it mean for human beings to live in a world where perhaps most of the stories, melodies, images, laws, policies, and tools are shaped by a non-human, alien intelligence which knows how to exploit with superhuman efficiency the weaknesses, biases, and addictions of the human mind, and also knows how to form deep and even intimate relationships with human beings. What if the same thing happens in art, in politics, economics, and even in religion? But this kind of question misses the big picture. Instead, think, for example, about the next US presidential race in 2024 and try to imagine the impact of the new AI tools that can mass produce political manifestos, fake news stories, and even holy scriptures for new cults. But in future, we might see the first cults and religions in history whose revered texts were written by a non-human intelligence. This could become true very, very quickly. Now, the catch is that it's utterly useless, it's pointless for us to waste our time trying to convince an AI bot to change its political views. But the longer we spend talking with the bot, the better it gets to know us and understand how to hone its messages in order to shift our political views. It only needs to be able to inspire feelings in us, to get us to be attached to it. Now, in June 2022, there was a famous incident when the Google engineer Blake Lemoine publicly claimed that the AI chatbot Lambda, on which he was working, has become sentient. This very controversial claim cost him his job. He was fired. If AI can influence people to risk and lose their jobs, what else can it induce us to do? Even without creating fake intimacy, the new AI tools would have an immense influence on human opinions and on our worldview. People, for instance, may come to use, are already coming to use. If you've been watching the news lately, Google is terrified, and for a good reason. Why bother searching yourself when you can just ask the Oracle to tell you anything you want? The news industry and the advertisement industry should also be terrified. What's the purpose of advertisements when I can just ask the Oracle to tell me what to buy? Now, not the end of history, just the end of the human-dominated part of what we call history. History is the interaction between biology and culture. Now, what will happen to the course of this interaction of history when AI takes over culture? And remember that we humans, we never really have direct access to reality. We are always cocooned by culture, and we always experience reality through a cultural prism. A printing press cannot create a new book. So for thousands of years, we humans basically lived inside the dreams and fantasies of other humans. We dedicated our lives to causes that originated in the imagination of some human poet or prophet or politician. From everything or most of the things imagined in science fiction, movies, and books. Previously, people have mostly feared the physical threat that intelligent machines pose. Simply by gaining mastery of human language, AI has all it needs in order to cocoon us in a matrix-like world of illusion. For thousands of years, prophets and poets and politicians have used language, storytelling, in order to manipulate and to control people and to reshape society. If you go back to Frankenstein, maybe it's 200 years. But for thousands of years, humans have been haunted by a much, much deeper fear. Consequently, since ancient times, humans feared being trapped in a world of illusion. And social media, if this sounds far-fetched, so just look at social media over the last few years. Social media has given us a small taste of things to come. I didn't talk about it because the people who develop AI naturally talk about it enough. You don't need me to add up to that chorus. In order to make sure that the new AI tools are used for good and not for ill, we first need to appreciate their true capabilities, and we need to regulate them very, very carefully. And one big difference between nukes and AI, nukes cannot produce more powerful nukes. So we need to act quickly before AI gets out of our control. Again, I'm not talking about stopping all research in AI. The first step is to stop the release into the public sphere. If we don't slow down the AI arms race, we will not have time to even understand what is happening, let alone to regulate effectively. And the answer is absolutely no, exactly the opposite. Unregulated AI deployment is what will cause democracies to lose to dictators. Maybe in an authoritarian or totalitarian way it will still be possible to regulate. But how can you regulate something democratically if you can't hold a conversation about it? We will not be able to have a meaningful public conversation anymore. So we should put a halt to the irresponsible deployment of this alien intelligence into our societies and regulate AI before it regulates us. About what you just heard over the last 20 or 25 minutes. Some of you may be angry at me, thinking that I'm exaggerating the threat or that I'm misleading the public. I've just told you a story, and this story is likely to change your mind about certain things and may even cause you to take certain actions in the world. I promise you that at least the words you heard are the cultural product of a human mind, or several human minds. But can you be absolutely sure? A year ago, there was nothing on Earth, at least not in the public domain, other than a human mind that could produce such a sophisticated and powerful text. So take a moment, or more than a moment, to think about it.
I follow you dearly in my heart. I very much agree with the principle, but now the question becomes how, right? And one kind of related question to that is that, well, this whole forum, Frontiers in Forum, is really about open science and open information, open data.
You need an awful lot of computing power, so it's being led by just a few major corporations, government. But there are things which countries have a benefit to regulate even only themselves. Like, again, this example of an AI must, when it is in interaction with a human, must disclose that it is an AI. Even if some authoritarian regime doesn't want to do it, the EU or the United States or other democratic countries can have this. And this is essential to protect the open society.
If you could just pass the microphone down here. I'm a philosopher. I just have an interesting question. Well, I think it's an interesting question. I have a question for you with respect to your choice of language, moving from artificial to alien, because artificial suggests that there's still some kind of human control.
So artificial is a kind of wishful thinking. So in this sense, it is becoming an alien force, not necessarily evil. Again, it can also do a lot of good things, but the first thing to realize is it's alien. We don't understand how it works. Now, there is an entire discussion to be had about whether this is a life form or not. That's an open question. But life doesn't necessarily mean consciousness. And I think AI is getting very, very close to that position. We think that an amoeba is life, but a virus, it's somewhere just on the borderline between life and not life. Then it's, it's language. If it does something wrong, we'll just pull the plug. Nobody knows how to pull the plug anymore.
I'm going to take a question from our online audience.
And so when I look at the chaotic state of the world, I'm quite confident, again, from a historical perspective, that nobody has it anywhere. How much time it will take to develop artificial general intelligence?